Hi, welcome to Three Eyes Founder Series. I have the pleasure of interviewing my good friend, Teddy Gold, who's an amazing young man who's accomplished a great deal in his short time. And so this is a joint production of Three Eye and the Rosen Report. And so, Teddy, welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Eric, it's amazing to see you as always. Thank you for not only hosting today's session, but moderating what will become our founder series and is releasing soon with some incredible talent and founders in the 3i network, lifting up stories that, I think really embody what it means to be a 3i member and some of the quality we have in the group. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for your commitment to 3i, and thanks just for being a great friend and mentor.
So, Teddy, I'm really happy you're with us, and I think we're going to have a good time. You and Mark got together to do 3i. Can you tell me what you were doing before that happened? What were you working on? What were you up to?
My story starts. I don't exactly think I qualify as a black sheep, as a Jewish kid from Long Island who's now in the investment business. But I grew up as one of four in a family of six, where just at Thanksgiving when someone called and asked for Dr. Gold, I'm the only one who you can safely assume they're not calling to the hospital. So I think maybe in that sense, maybe I'm the gray sheep of my family. I went off to school at Middlebury College in Vermont, where I studied political science, and caught, I think, the first legs I caught the first legs of the entrepreneurial bug when I sketched up a same-day delivery service that would connect local Vermont businesses with college students that wanted to buy groceries or something from the little general store. And I think the rush of seeing something, developing something on a whiteboard and then seeing that impact, some kid drive his car to pick up a pizza pie and deliver to someone in college and make a real life impact, that rush is something that really stuck with me and something that still sort of inspires me and something that I chase today. So after school, I worked in investment banking and then private equity at a fund called Mainsail Partners in San Francisco. When I left to join who has become now a really close friend and mentor and actually member of 3i, who's going to be on this founder series, Alfred Johnson, as an early employee of an early stage technology company called Mobilize, which really took the first pass at modernizing and updating political technology, which if you've ever seen a political campaign or a nonprofit, these guys are living in the Stone Ages with clipboards and pencils and galas to raise money. Company did extraordinarily well. I was also involved in the venture fund that helped incubate and then seed the company until they were acquired by a roll-up of Insights in 2020. And on the heels of that sale, I personally got really, really curious about a very simple question of how do great investors regularly and systematically find access to the types of deals that I myself was working on in private equity. High yielding, uncorrelated, esoteric, capacity constrained deals that felt like required an entire sourcing infrastructure to help find. And this was at the height of the bull market, right? This is 2020, 2021, when Bitcoin's worth $60,000 a pop. And it seems like money is flowing into everything except things that I would identify as quality. So I sort of sketch, what does a guy do in that situation? I sketch up the beginnings of a business model. And at the time, I was actually considering a mobile app where investors could gain access to some of these types of investments that I had myself worked on in the beginnings of my career. When a friend of a friend connected me to Mark Gerson, who he said was actually working on a similar project. And the first time I sat down with Mark, I 2 sentences into my pitch of what would become a mobile app, Mark turned around and said, "Hey, this actually really isn't a technology problem." He said, "I agree that sourcing deals is hard." And that's true even for him, having built GLG, which is a legendary and enormous expert network business. But the problem to sourcing good deals, or the solution to sourcing good deals, is not technology, it's people and building another network. So I was totally compelled by that story. And he at the time was incubating this idea of building a network to help investors source deals and ideas with Billy Libby, who's our third partner in 3i, came out of Goldman Sachs, started an extraordinarily successful specialty finance hybrid debt and equity firm called Upper 90. So that's early 21 when we met. And that's when I took the plunge with Mark and Billy and set out to begin what has now become 3i.
That's a great story. What is 3i today for those who are not aware? What has it become?
Yeah. So, we started with the central premise and we sort of asked ourselves, how do you find a great deal? And we started in a really simple way with a monthly deal call on Zoom. And it's still the anchor of our community, where 3 members would present on a deal that they're working on, have capacity in, and are excited about. With over time, we would develop strict rules that would govern what you can and can't present on this call, right? For example, you can't pitch your own deal or anything that you have special economics or a promote or GP interest in. And the focus here was uncorrelated assets, right? Not venture or real estate, but things like an aircraft engine teardown, where we bought an aircraft engine together off a Boeing 747, or a portfolio of music royalties. Things that you might not otherwise get access to through your bank platform or local RIA. From these deal calls, we realized that people actually wanted to just connect and meet each other and get together. So we launched an event series starting here in New York, ultimately rolling out down where you are, Eric, in South Florida. Then we moved to Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and recently we've opened up Atlanta, Toronto, London. And from the event series, we realized that really what people are interested in is learning. So we launched things like asset allocation workshops and tax strategy workshops, where people can tap some of the insights that sit on the brains and in the balance sheets of fellow members. As it grew, we launched trips. We did a trip to Berkshire Hathaway and Israel and Aspen and Palm Springs. We run a speaker series, WhatsApp groups, one-on-one monthly introductions. We have a member portal now where you can see everything live on 3i. We have poker games and a newsletter, and it's just become an incredible community. We did over 75 events last year and collectively invested a little over $200 million since we started. It's 350 members now. Everyone just joins by the referral of an existing member, which is core to maintain some of the quality that we look at. And I think it's all really exciting, right? The deals and the events. We've built something that has a lot of momentum here. But I think above all, it's just a community of really good people. And to me, what really drives me and the team is, in a world where it feels like everything is working to rip us apart, whether it's what you see on the news or what you're hearing out of politicians or the media or TikTok or your iPhone, everything seems to be trying to pull us apart. 3i is a place where we can help build community. And it's sort of, for me, a rare bright spot where we can get great people together to invest and learn and ultimately meet people who can make your life better.
Listen, I've been a member since the beginning, and I can tell you that the network to me is really fantastic. I had Jacques come over for dinner a week ago. He was in town for Thanksgiving, and he spent an afternoon and evening with me and my family. I didn't know him before 3i. Every time I go to New York, Jacques and I get together among many other people, and I really feel like I've connected. Yeah, I've made a half a dozen deals, but I feel the network and the friendships and the good friendships I've made in just a couple of years' time have really been fantastic. So that's been great. And I think I'm safe to say that I'm probably double the next closest person who's brought in members. I'm probably close to 40 members that I've brought in. I should get like a huge, like $1 million bonus for that.
Yeah, you'll be seeing a small little paperweight should be arriving
I think a plaque with like a life-size picture of me in the offices of 3i would be like a nice, like something nice that would be more appropriate for what I've done. But we'll move on.
The $15 Dunkin' Donuts gift card is on its way. Trust me, the mail is slow, but it's on its way.
I would expect that from you. So thank you. I'm surprised you gave me $15. I thought it would be $1.50. So looking back over the past couple of years as a startup and what you've been able to do, what are the best and worst decisions? So maybe we can learn from this. Yeah. And what are things you wish you didn't do and wish you think maybe you did earlier?
Yeah. It's funny, starting the business in 2021 when everyone's first instinct is tech. And that's true of almost any new enterprise now, where everyone switches on to how can technology solve this problem. I think one of the best decisions we've made, and this really came from the sort of DNA of 3i, which is baked in from, Mark's perspective, building GLG, which is a human-centered network, and Billy's perspective from Goldman Sachs, building Upper 90, which is, over 500 LPs, again, an extremely human-centric sourcing and deal flow, network now turned into a fund. We're building 3i from a network perspective the old-fashioned way. And there is, of course, a tech layer to what we do, right? We've put a modern tech polish on, we use Zoom and a member portal and, asynchronous communications. And we try to make tech to make members' lives easier. But the truth is there's no amount of technology or software or artificial intelligence that can help build meaningful relationships between people. And there's nothing that sort of replaces the hard hand-to-hand combat of getting to know someone, sitting down with them in person, understanding what are the problems that they're facing, either from a personal or business or investing perspective, and then using the network to help solve those problems. And I think, Eric, I talk a ton about the team, with the team about hospitality. And you took me to Union Square early on in Union Square Cafe, early on in the life cycle of 3i when you and I were just getting to know each other. And it was my first time there, and it was really my first time outside Shake Shack at a Danny Meyer restaurant. And I was so blown away by the experience from a hospitality perspective. You enter one of those places and every detail, from the way that the host greets you
100%.
to the way they put the food on the table, to the way they present the check, they have thought through and dialed in every single component of the hospitality, which led me to, try to understand who is Danny Meyer. So I got his book and read, Setting the Table, which is an incredible recollection of how he built the empire. And he has a line that inspires a lot of the work we do on, the human first element of the business and this hospitality side. We try to instill into the network, which is, he says, service is just the technical delivery of the product. And that's sort of, for us, table stakes, right? That's the deals we do and the events and the workshops and the network. But hospitality, he says, is the way that it makes the customer feel. It's a dialogue between the product and the customer. And I think we still have a lot of work to do on this at 3i, but building slowly, understanding that every human is someone with needs and hopes and wants and desires in the network, and we can help use the network to make their lives better rather than default to technology, is probably one of the best decisions and sort of starting places that has helped 3i been successful.
What about something that was a mistake maybe early on that you regretted that you learned from?
We found this guy, Eric Rosen, in a sand trap.
That's among the best decisions. Probably that's like Amazon, starting Amazon or something.
It was like a swamp in Boca Raton full of alligators. It was like a sand trap or something. And we find this guy who, who's got curly hair and a microphone for some reason. And for some reason, he sneaks into the membership.
There's 100% chance that is the best decision that 3i ever made. Like when the history books are written, they're going to say, what was the best decision ever made in 3i? It's like partnering with Eric Rosen was clearly the single best decision. It's like a legendary decision when Steve Jobs founded Apple. I'm putting it at that level.
It's on that level. It'll be remembered. No, it's been amazing to work with you, Eric, and you've been such a huge ambassador and supporter of the network. So that's been incredible. I think in all seriousness, on the failure side, and I eat the startup dog food. I've been brainwashed by reading enough startup books and self-help and podcasts to think of all these failures as learnings and lessons. And actually, our all team onsite is coming up to wrap up 23 and look ahead to 2024. And we actually memorialize and document a lot of the places that we fell short. I think for me, one of the biggest lessons is about prioritization. And when you build a network like 3i, all of a sudden, with the momentum and the energy and the buy-in and the product development ideas of now over 350 members, there's a lot of great ideas that float around of, hey, you guys should really think about this, or you should do that, or you should open up in this geography. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at it as the CEO at a priority list that is completely unwieldy. And I do a weekly coaching session with one of our members who's an incredible advisor to me, Dan Summer, who's a really legendary ed tech entrepreneur. And Dan told me this story about, a startup is like a great bakery. And a great bakery that is known for its cookie has all of the right ingredients to make a great cookie, right? It has the flour and the water and the baking sheets and the oven temperature to make great cookies. And now you can make, if you make chocolate chip cookies, maybe you can make an oatmeal cookie, but it has to stay within that formula of cookie. When someone comes along and says, hey, you're a great baker, you should also try making a bagel, as CEO, it's your job to help understand and identify which of these are really priorities and which of these are going to throw you off course and do you not have the skill set or the wherewithal to create. So I think one of the biggest learnings for me is just learning the word prioritization and learning that building a company really is all about trade-offs and staying focused yourself and keeping the team focused on how can we drive value for our members.
Great. That's good. What advice would you give to founders who are leaving traditional finance for a startup role? What's the one or two things that you would tell them today, given you did the same thing?
The only real advice I have, I mean, there's so much fortune cookie wisdom in podcasts and in books. The only real advice I can share is to find a mentor, and really not just one mentor. I think a host of mentors. And I think, Eric, you do an amazing job of this from the perspective of the Rosen Report. I know you facilitate a ton of mentors. I know you are mentoring at any one time dozens of people. That philosophy to me is so important. And I'm super, super lucky in that I have it built in with Mark and Billy, who sit on our board and co-founded this with me, with people like you, Eric, who have been ambassadors and champions of 3i from the start. But I'm in a privileged position where I've got, truly titans of industry and captains of wherever it is they came from, help advising me on where it is I want to take 3i. And I think you can just save yourself a lot of sort of thrashing around in the boat alone if you have the humility to pick up the phone and call someone who, I think you'd be surprised, actually does really root for your success. And I think in finance particularly, there's a misnomer that your VP or your MD is out to get you and they want to kill you and they want to work you to the bone and grind you. I think if you kind of remove yourself from that philosophy, particularly for folks in finance, I think you'll realize that people are happy to help. And if you can, be humble enough to ask for help, there is mentorship and advice waiting for you. And it was really key to everything we do here at 3i is anytime I have a question, I pick up the phone. And I so admire that philosophy also in our members who have the humility to pick up the phone and call another member when they have a question.
That's great. I, as you said, I mentor a lot of kids, and with the Rosen Report, I'm trying to launch something for internships for college kids and young professionals to get them. So mentorship is a big part of my life. I was lucky to have a couple mentors in my professional career that I could go to. Jimmy Lee was one of them. And so great. 3i has changed so much over the past year with growth. What are you most excited about for 2024?
Yeah. The network has really exploded. And what's exciting about that is everything we do is just by member referral. So everyone who joins, all the 350 members who've joined since we started, have joined with the nomination and referral of an existing member who joins and has a positive experience. The thing I'm most excited for is geographic expansion. We started in New York, moved to South Florida, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, recently Atlanta, Austin, Arizona. And just this quarter, we touched down for the first time in Toronto and London, making 3i International. I think deal flow is still strangely regional, right? So deal flow sort of gets locked in these regional pockets with bankers and brokers and loose family office networks, and we can help break down those barriers at 3i. And I think ideas are still regional. So one of the things that's most exciting to me about 3i is just building connectivity into the major financial and business hubs throughout the world so that members can gain access to, for example, Eric, when you, or maybe you and I actually go to London, we've got waiting for us a network of folks who, are ready to plug us into the business community there the same way they would expect when they come to New York or South Florida to meet folks in the 3i community.
Listen, what I'd say is, when I travel, I put into my Rosen Report, I put where I'm going, and inevitably 3i members reach out to me when I'm in LA or when I'm in New York. I get Austin, I met with 3i people. When I'm in New York, I end up not only sitting in offices, sadly too close to you, I wish a little further away, but I see all these 3i people, and actually Dan Arbus and I saw a story that I thought Dan Arbus would find interesting. I emailed him last night. We went back and forth, and he said, "Oh, you're going to be in New York next week. Let's get together." And so I think it's that kind of stuff. So I really cannot stress enough how great I find the network. So on that topic, can you tell us a couple of the remarkable 3i connectivity stories or network stories that come to mind?
Yeah. And this is my favorite part of the job. The team celebrates them when they come in. And early on, what we think about as a member connection was a huge deal. And, hey, these two people met and, went out to lunch. We'd celebrate every one. And we still celebrate every member connection. Now they happen all the time, right? They're coming in almost daily. People are saying, hey, I got a new advisory role through the 3i network, or I met a co-GP on this real estate project, or I've got a new hiking buddy, or I went to play tennis. I mean, there's guys playing paddle right now. Like the network has really taken root. Two stories that I love. One, earlier this week, we got a selfie from 3 members in Guyana who had not only flown down together to check out a real estate project, but actually launched a fund together based on the premise that there's a huge oil boom happening in Guyana, but the real estate infrastructure is still lagging. So 3 members who would have never met each other before, one from San Francisco, one from New York, and one who's a very well-known private equity executive in the Caribbean, teamed up. They met through a 3i deal call. 2 of them met through a 3i deal call. 2 of them met at a 3i dinner in New York. The 3 of them team up, take a flight down to Guyana, and have launched a fund focused on real estate down there. And to me, that's the power of this thing, is that these people would have never met each other before. 2 of them probably wouldn't have never been interested in Guyana. And then, fast forward a month or 2 later, they're on a flight together, sending selfies around to their friends in the network. And we, as keepers of the network, are rooting for their success, right? So we're going to leverage everything in our power in 3i to make sure that their fund for real estate in Guyana is successful. The second story actually came in very recently, another one earlier this week, where, and I won't use names because the deal is still private, but every month, Eric, we match members one-on-one for either a mutual interest or expertise. So when a member joins, we'll say, hey, Eric, welcome to the 3i network. And you'll say, I'm really interested in meeting capital providers in Europe because I want to expand my business, which is North America centric. I want to expand to Europe. So we tag everyone with what they're interested in. On a monthly basis, we make one-on-one, hand-matched, hand-curated email introductions. It looks like an air traffic control screen here at headquarters every time we do it. There's index cards for every member. We literally hand-match them. 2 members met probably 2 months ago. One looking for capital. This is a big bank and lending provider in London, looking for capital partners in the US to expand a lending strategy into commercial real estate, particularly in New York. Meets with a member who's running a commercial real estate lending strategy in New York. And we make the introduction because we know there's a supply and demand mismatch here, and we know one might be interested in meeting the other. With no expectation, we introduce them on our one-on-one monthly introduction program. And then 2 months later, we get an email back that says, hey, here's a draft press release. We're about to announce a $30 million deal we did together and the beginnings of a really significant co-GP project. That's the kind of thing where, 3i is not in the business of matchmaking or brokering. We're in the business of making great connections between members with no expectations. And because there's no agenda or there's no fees, people feel, I think, their guards are down to really make serious connections and make great friends. So I'm rooting for that one. I'm excited to announce it.
I didn't even know about those, which are fantastic. I assume like Maisie made that connection. It clearly wasn't you that made that fantastic. I'm going with Maisie.
It must have been Maisie. It must have. There's only one answer. It must have been Maisie.
Yeah, Kara, Natalie, or Maisie. You were not involved with that. Do not take credit for something that you did not do. Okay, so what are you reading right now, and how do you stay on top of current trends other than your lifetime dedication to the Rosen Report?
Yeah, look, there's a ton of great literature out there on investing and finance and tech and real estate. And the only advice I'd have is do not read the Rosen Report. It is full of gossip and rumors.
We have a lawyer. We have a lawyer in 3i. I think I've gotten 5 in there. You're going to be served with a lawsuit for blasphemy, slander, and libel. Now, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to own 3i. It's going to be renamed.
I love what you've done with the Rosen Report. I think it's hilarious and explosive and viral, and everyone has to read it if you're not already. If you're interested in tech or real estate. I think one of the best privileges of my seat amongst many is the fact that I get to regularly ask members like you, and I've made this sort of standard course for my interactions with members, is what are you reading? Because I'm just surrounded by these, incredible business leaders. So most of what I gather is just from intellectually curious members who have made recommendations themselves. Ted Saides, who's also going to be on this podcast on the Founder Series, who runs Capital Allocators, is recommended to me a podcast, reignited my interest in Shane Parrish and Farnham Street, and the podcast called The Knowledge Project, which I recommend to almost anyone. There was an episode with Todd Herman, who was Kobe's coach through some of Kobe's hard times, which is absolutely incredible. Ron Suber, another great member and friend, just recommended Morgan Housel's new book, which is going around and I think is atop the bestseller charts right now, which is called Same as Ever. Which talks about how, basically nothing ever changes and humans are, regardless of what changes in the markets and the news, human nature is always the same. And I actually, it's funny, Peter Bookvar, because we interview him for,
I got him in 3i. He was one of my
quarterly update. Yeah, he came in through you, and he was described as another member as one of the greatest living economists. So we're really delighted to have him in 3i. I asked Peter the same question, what do you read? And Peter said, I'll challenge you to read one, at least foreign publication a week, a daily news source a week. So his suggestion was actually the South China Morning Post. And I've tried maybe once a week to read. It's hard, right? But that's the kind of news source that I love. I love asking them.
I need to have a conversation with Peter, because the fact that he didn't say the Rosen Report are fighting words. Like, he reads the Rosen Report, and the fact that was not the first thing that came out of his mouth is a little bit disappointing. I'm not gonna lie, Peter, you're on notice.
That's hilarious. I think similar to the mentorship thing, I just think one of the best parts about my job is just asking people what they're reading, because you get answers from, read the Shane Parrish's Farnham Street, which is right down the middle, all the way to, the Peter's read the South China Morning Post.
Great. So with that, what does 3i mean to you? A couple of years in, when you look at 3 years out, what would you define as success for the company and for you?
I think for me in particular, I'm a young man in business, with the guidance and leadership of Mark and Billy, who've really helped support and seed this, and people like you who sort of sit in my advisor network. For me, I think of 3i as a long-term project. I truly believe in this idea of compounding value and compounding relationships and going, building steadily and slowly for the long haul. I don't think the product that we have today will always look the same. I don't think the composition of the membership base will always look the same. I don't think the anything we do today will always look the same. But what I know is if we can be super thoughtful about, adding value for people, founders, fund managers, family offices who, are burdened with incredible opportunity. If we can add value to their life, then 3i has a place to connect really great people and great ideas. So I think long term with this, I want success for me means 3i outlives me and probably outlives anyone, on this team and becomes an institution where we can add value to people's lives.
That's great. All right. So we're going to do a speed round before we wrap up.
Right.
So what's your favorite book of all time?
I was a political science major in college, and I'm a total junkie for a great political memoir biography. I just finished actually on audiobook Robert Caro's biography of LBJ, which is a monster, but I've got a big morning commute, a big commute in New York City. So if anyone's looking for a great audiobook, look at Robert Caro's work on LBJ.
All right. Favorite investor?
I've got to pay respect to Charlie Munger, who just passed. We took 25 members to the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting this past May, and we had the great privilege of being in the last class of shareholders and participants to watch Charlie and Warren live on stage together. Charlie has this quote, which is well regurgitated by almost everyone now, which is write your obituary and then act accordingly, which I love and have written on the top of my planner. I think it's unlikely that we have a thinker and person like Charlie Munger, into the near future, and I've learned so much from him.
Great. Favorite restaurant in New York City? I know your favorite dinner ever was dinner with me.
Union Square Cafe, man. You opened my eyes to fine dining, and plus you paid for it, which means it was free and all the better.
Yeah, I mean that's offensive, but yeah, I remember you went deep on wine and stuff. Like I have to work an extra 3 years to pay for that. Anything Danny Meyer does is fantastic. I love his stuff. I liked it when it was at the old place on 14th Street, and now the new place. I think he spent $20 million building that one out. Okay, favorite activity? What do you like to do?
Somehow, as the Jewish kid from Long Island, I missed the boat on tennis in high school and growing up in high school and college. But I picked it up, probably 6 months ago. I've been totally obsessed with it. I think it's a perfect combination of cardio and technique and social. And in New York City, finding a court is basically like its own sport. I mean, it's so freaking hard that I like the gamesmanship of it. And Eric, I'm looking forward to playing with you. I'll see you down over Christmas. I'm looking forward to
we're going to get together and hang out and have some food and vino and tennis. I'm going to run your young ass around the tennis court.
You're going to kill me, but I'm going to have a ton of fun getting killed.
Yeah, that'd be a fun time. Okay, favorite movie?
There is literally no upper limit on the amount of times I can watch Moneyball. And I just feel like, it's not only is it an incredible David and Goliath story, but I just sometimes feel like the catcher that they asked to play first base, that they call up from retirement, asked to play first base. I think it's an incredible story of perseverance and, betting on yourself when every odd says that you're the underdog.
All right. And favorite 3i deal?
My favorite 3i deal is actually the first one we ever did, which was buying a portfolio of music royalties alongside KKR. And it was the rare opportunity. I'm a huge fan of music, and it's a rare opportunity to match personal interests and professional investing interests. The deal is done extremely well, and I have a playlist of a lot of my favorite songs from the music portfolio. So anytime I hit the playlist, I'm theoretically making money for someone or myself or other investors in the deal. But it was a great source from within the network and a great example of what we can do together.
Well, listen, Teddy, I've done maybe 15 or so of these podcasts around the Founder for Series. And I can tell you that, interviewing you today has been a lot of fun. We had a good time, and we like to schmie around, which makes for interesting topics. And so I'm really proud of what you've done. You're a young man, still in your 20s, and you present yourself and you're articulate, and the way you have a presence of somebody a lot older and a lot more experience than you. And so I love watching your development and growth. I'm always here to help you. I'm a phone call away, and I look forward to the success that I see in you over the next 10 years and where 3i goes. And, I hope to be the most critical part of it. I mean, because really, when you think about it, I am the glue that holds everything together, just in general, no matter what it is. Amazon, Apple, I've never worked there. I don't know anybody there, but I'm probably have some role in the success of that.
It was Jobs, Wozniak, and Rosen. It was the third
I think I was there. Yeah, it was like 1981, but I think I was there. I can take credit for everybody else's successes better than anybody. I'm the Michael Jordan of credit taking. So it's great to be with you. I'm so proud of all you've done, and I look forward to seeing where you go next. So thanks for being with us today. And everything ends with a Rosen Report hat. I'm wearing white today to match my white shirt.
I should have got mine. Yeah,
well, I gave you one, but you're not wearing it properly. That's disappointing. Always representing the Rosen Report. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Eric. You've been an incredible advisor and member and champion of the work. And thank you. I'm looking forward to releasing the rest of these founder series. We've got incredible talent in the network, and you've done a great job identifying and lifting up some of the stories that we want to retell of what it means to be a 3i member and some of the extraordinary capability that's within the network. So thank you for everything you've done. I'm looking forward to seeing you for our next dinner and over Christmas down staying with you in Boca. But thank you so much for hosting and moderating and being a great friend.
My pleasure.